Vision, goal, result.
That's right.
That's what this meeting is about. And this will be, we're going to embed this in the vision, goal, result page. Because most people don't understand vision, goal, result very well.
I'm on my phone.
Very few people understand it.
We can't see you.
Franny, we've started.
I can't get on the video.
Okay.
Franny, we've started. Okay, Barb, what was I just saying?
I don't know, Greg and Fran were talking over you. You said vision, goal, or results. This will be embedded on the vision, goal, results page. And then you got blocked by another conversation.
Okay. Everybody go to the page. Now, did you read this page this morning, Barb?
No.
Greg?
No.
Franny? Ross?
Not this morning, but I read it last week.
Okay, I tweeted it. I've tweeted a revised version this morning. Remember, you're always supposed to read your tweets before you come. We're not going to read it now because there's no time.
Okay.
So
By ear.
we'll just do the meeting this way, without you having read the page. Ross, did you want to ask me something? Say something.
Yes, I wanted to tell you that I disconnected my my Twitter account from Facebook.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to do that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
I told everybody to disconnect their accounts. Did you hear that, Ross, that I told everybody to disconnect the account?
No, I didn't hear that, but Franny told me.
Now,
I told her, Greg told me, I told Ross.
Oh, good. Thank you. Both?
It's the grapevine. I heard it through the grapevine.
That's right.
Yeah, the big channel.
Okay. So, okay, let's start with result. And results are, let's say, Barb posts something on YouTube, and a person calls her, and she talks to this person, and okay, now there's Greg, no typing, no doing anything, just
not typing.
You're just listening, you know, she gets 80% of whatever they donate, and that would be she has a result. That's a result. A result is a concrete, real thing in the world that can be easily measured. Now, we always have to differentiate results from goals, don't we? Goals are very different. A goal is a way that you intend to be, like you intend to do your 20-mile marches. And you know, your goal is to do, you know, there's all these different ones you do every day. Barb, what are some of yours? Since you're leaving, I'll ask you a bunch of questions, since I'll give you a little hit on the meeting before you go. What 20-mile marches do you do each day?
Well, my goal is to, have like significant, like full outline interactions with, like, I made it 3, like, you know, qualified people, like people that actually, if they connected, they could give if they want to give, or could take an action that would be significant. And to have other contacts with at least 20, like give stickers, let people know the site address, get signals with people. I mean, personally, I feel like just having like a really full, productive day is a goal, which includes those. those things are actually kind of results to me, those, what I just said.
They're not
Numbers.
results. Those things are not results.
Talking to three people, getting three signals with people is not a result. Oh, okay.
A result is different from a result. It's so very important to differentiate the two. A result would be that one of those people or persons, or when when you get to the point where you say, "What will you contribute?" The person whips out $20, hands it to you here, and that's a result. The goal is that you talk to them, they get a signal, and goals happen inside of you first. First, you become somebody.
My goal is that I'm easily connecting with people every day, and that they easily, that I'm out of the way enough that they get what this is. My personality.
The goal would be that doing it is as nothing. It's like it's this thing you do every day. So somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, Barb, what are you doing?" And you're talking to somebody, and you say, "Oh, nothing. I'm just showing this person how to test." And it's actually nothing. It's doing nothing, because that's just what you do every day. See, you would say you were doing something if you said, "Oh, I'm out on a lake trout fish. I'm out in a trout stream fishing with Ted Turner." That would be doing something, because you don't do that every day. Now, what about exercise? Do you have 20-mile exercise daily marches that you do?
Not right now. I would like to have that added to my. Well, I kind of incorporate the two because I literally kind of march and walk a lot with mine.
Well, I'll do mine. I'll tell you mine. See, I actually, by most people's standards, exercise very little.
Me too.
But the interesting thing is that I keep myself like totally aerobic all day.
Yeah.
And I figured out how to do it by minimizing. And that's the key in 20-mile marches. You minimize. 20-mile marches are like they're the minimum that you want to do, except they're really not, because when I was reading about Amundsen actually averaged 15 miles a day. He tried to go around, 20 miles. I don't know if you remember what Anna said, but she was saying that attempts. Barb, stay with me here. Okay, can you, Barb? I just want to...
Sorry. I'm here.
She was saying that, to pasting comments, she was saying that 20 attempts was very doable. But that many of the comments didn't stick, so she might get 10 up a day.
Well, you have a plan and a goal, and then you really have to...
Well, see, the goal is to hold back. And is to go this distance or something like it, and not go further, because there were these really good days. And Amundsen could have, his men would say, "Well, why don't we go like 30 miles so we can make another 10 miles? And he'd say, "No, we stop." And there is I believe it was Intel, like there was this other company saying that they wanted maximum growth every year. And the Intel CEO said, "We've decided to limit our yearly growth so that things don't get away from us."
Yeah, that's good enough.
So they made a conscious decision to limit their growth. So this is what, it's kind of like, your goal is to talk to 9 people a day. That's the last one you told me anyway. So let's say you talk to 3 and the third one gives you $100. And what you do is you just walk right along and you talk to the next one till you have 9.
Right.
That's the 20-mile march. Now, what I noticed, here's another thing that he said. He said that 20-mile marches indemnify people against catastrophe. He said that at all these companies, It was when the company was in a 20-mile march, actually doing one, and then this enormously adverse condition in the marketplace happened, or one of their products had a defect, and they had to recall 1 million of them, or whatever it was. He said that 29 out of 29 times came out fine. But the other companies that weren't in 20-mile marches, they were creamed by these same kinds of catastrophes. And I'll tell you what, I pick these things up and I hear these things. And I got the movie The Last Place on Earth, which is about Amundsen and Scott. And when the weather was bad, Scott didn't move. He stayed in his tent and complained about the weather. He wrote, "This weather is so horrible, it's impossible to travel in this weather." Amundsen, went 8 miles in this blizzard. And he wrote, "The weather's a little bad today, so we only made 8 miles." That's how he related to the same thing. When you do 20-mile marches, you relate differently to things.
Yeah.
Let me say, okay.
Yes.
Franny said that I should be positive. She wanted me to be more positive. And so let me start with Ross, okay?
Okay?
Now, so Barb, I'm going to tell you something about Ross. Okay? We just had this situation with Anna where her husband was leaving her and she's gone. 2 days later she's gone. She's no longer with us. She's out of here. She's gone, okay? This thing came up and she's gone. Now, Ross's husband died. And she went through that, and she tweeted her way through it every day. And she kept herself clear, and she kept herself well. And Ross, I'm going to bring you up here. You there, Ross? Can you hear me? Are you with me?
Yes, yes.
You behaved heroically, and when I started to look at you, I realized that you are a person who does 20-mile marches. Like here's what I noticed. You have this job, you're an English teacher, and your husband was dying and he was in a hospital. And you could have taken the time off from work and gone and sat with him and held his hand, am I right?
Yes.
But you didn't, did you?
No.
Why?
Because I felt it was right to keep living my life and to do whatever I could do, take care of myself, take care of my work, of my cats, of my husband, of my family, and everything. Because it's true that I could have been there all the time holding his hand, but I wouldn't have changed the situation at all. It was a matter of the quality of time I could give him and not the quantity.
This is a 20-mile marcher. If you look at Ross, you see a 20-mile marcher. She doesn't change what she does. She does the thing every day. She's in this 20-mile march, and her husband says, "Okay, I'm dying. I'm going into hospice." And so he goes to hospice, and she goes to work. And then she goes to the hospice after work, and she's a little tired, but she makes it over there. Am I right? That's how you did it.
Yeah.
Yep. She drives over there, and she brings some food there, and she just makes it work. And she doesn't quit.
Well, I would like to say in my own defense, because I'm not sure what you're going at here, but I think that's great. And I think I've been in a 20-mile march for almost 20 years now. Like, I've walked right through relationships. I've walked right through deaths in my family. My mother and I have a really good relationship, and I should be like, this would be like what most people would think. I should be home with my mother right now and holding her hand, but I'm not. And she wants it that way. She used the same words that Ross did. She said, no, I want you to be out there living your life. And so that's what we've agreed that I'm doing, you know, so.
Your mother
I haven't
trained
been
you
sick for
the
25
right
years.
way.
Yeah, she did. She's cool. And then no one else in my family sees it that way, but she does.
She trained you the right way, and you are a very self-directing person. You have, you're going to really need to do a lot of examination and you're going to have to get inside of what this is, understand where you are not 20-mile marching, and for one thing, see, when you lived with me, you exercised every day. If I didn't go out running with you in the morning, I'd be out running, and I was out there on that road, and there you'd come running towards me, and you'd be, hey, I'm doing my run.
Yeah.
And so you did that every day. And this is a very good example. Exercise is an essential 20-mile march every day for every person on Earth. And what I do is I go and I take a very short jog barefoot in the wildlife area in the morning, and then in the afternoon I get on the rebounder for 12 minutes. And I have not, since I started doing that, I have not missed a single day. And I've been here 12 years. Now I just started the rebounder about 1.5 years ago, but I haven't missed a day. Every day I have done that. So I do not, like when I tell people I go running, like they have this picture, he must run 3 miles, you know. No, I probably run about half a mile or a third of a mile. It gets me aerobic. It takes about 12 minutes, actually.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I mean, I weigh the same thing I weighed in high school and college, and when I exercise every single day, I probably walk at least 3 miles a day or move 3 miles.
So it may just be that your particular way of exercising could be walking, which may not be a bad thing. This I can't like tell somebody what kind of exercise to do. I'm just trying to use myself as an example. Now, here's another thing. See, Franny was telling me to be positive. So, now what I've said just here about Ross is a very positive thing, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Ross, would you agree that what I've said about you is a very positive thing?
Yes, you did say a positive thing. You missed the whole point of what I was saying.
Let's hear it.
It's not just to say positive things. It's to have the can-do attitude and the optimism and not to be pessimistic or negative.
Focus on
That's
solutions.
what I was talking about. It's not talking about, oh, you say nice things to people or uplifting things.
I hear you.
You're right. I did miss what you were talking about, and I'm glad you mentioned
I
it.
tried to repeat it, and I guess you couldn't get it.
Well, I told you I was going to go think about it and thought about it, but I got it now, so...
Okay.
So,
That's great.
okay, here's another positive thing I have to say. Greg, here's Greg on the screen, loves talking to people. And he's good at it, and when people are, you know, need help or they need to talk to somebody, Greg is a great person to talk to them. He's there. So, Greg, respond.
I average 1 or 2 new people a day, probably call. My 20-mile march has been to actually run the outline with 2 people for practice and see what comes of it. Let me say, I really learned about this 20-mile march actually in marching, and not 20 miles, but when I was 10, I hiked down the Grand Canyon. It was 115 degrees, and a lot of people were not going down. But I was too young to take the burros. They thought, oh, he's too young. Well, I hiked down with my brother and my father. My mother stayed at the top. She had broken her coccyx falling.
Oh, my God.
But we hiked down from the North Rim, and of course it's the opposite of a mountain. You get tired going down, and then you have to come back up. In the mountain, you get tired going up, and you have to come back down. But it's even worse, kind of going down and coming up.
Right.
And on the way up, I mean, it was so hot, we just jumped in the water at the bottom and you know, just cool off. And when we come back up, we decided our 20-mile march would be, we would like hike for 45 minutes. I don't know where it started. We'd walk for 50 minutes or 45 minutes, and then we'd rest for 10 or 15. And it got to be, after a while, walk for half an hour, rest for half an hour. At one point, it got to be, we would walk for 10 minutes.
Wow.
Or 5 minutes even, and rest for 50 minutes. It was so hard. And we were passing the Boy Scouts that were, and they were falling, they dropped all their baggage, their packs,
My
and their
God.
things. The burros that came up and knocked it over the side, went down into the, you know, knocked it over the edge. And these guys were straggling, and they were a lot older and rugged and all that. And we actually invited these guys to come walk with us. We did it at our pace, and I was 10 years old. And they couldn't even keep up. The guys just said, they had to send people down to get them out.
Wow.
And we made it out, and I remember the orange I ate there. I had an orange, and we split it, and it was the best orange I've ever
Before or since, right?
on a rock. And we were together in doing this, and the camaraderie between us was just unbelievable. 3 of us. So, and I learned about that. Obviously, the goal, we're not going to be able to do that 20-mile march. We had to be like Amundsen and say, okay, we're going to average 15. That's about what we're able to do here.
Barb,
Yes.
stop texting.
Oh, sorry.
That's my
You're out of control.
to it.
You're an addict. Stop
I
texting.
have to go. I have 5 minutes to get a half an hour away.
Well, then you should.
Okay.
But that's we will be seeing you.
I'll be attentive. Okay. See you later. Thanks for the
Sure.
push. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, now, here's another thing, another positive thing. I'll go to Ross. Now, one of your 20-mile marches, I've noticed that you do, is that you have participated in everything you possibly could with the CureTeam. Like you're at every meeting, or virtually every meeting on Friday. You do sessions with Franny and Greg, and you help them.
Yeah.
And you're expanding to do more things with the CureTeam. And how would you feel if one day you were like roaring along full blast, you know, supporting the CureTeam, and you got a call from me on Skype saying, "Sorry, Ross, there's no more CureTeam."
I would feel very sad.
Yep. And see, and what about if you said, okay, well, I guess I'll just work on the web college, and I said, well, sorry, there isn't going to be any web college in a couple of weeks because, you know, there's nobody here to maintain it and no money, and so I'm just going to let it, you know, it's going to expire, and we're finished, it's over. How would you feel then?
Yeah. Very, very upset.
Well, in this book I'm reading, this kind of thing actually happened to some of the contrasting companies. Like they went out of business, or they sold to got themselves acquired by another company or whatever. You know, he was writing about there was an airline called Pacific Southwest. And they were wonderful. It was it was a joy to fly on them. He was talking about them, and their planes were decorated in this really fun way. And he said that the employees that used to work for Pacific Southwest were looking at the airplanes that they had flown in a hangar with the decorations being sandblasted off them so that they could be resold to another company. That's what happens when you don't do 20-mile marches. And you know, like, Barb isn't here anymore, so I feel kind of funny, but she can always watch this. I'll put it on YouTube, and so she'll hear what I have to say to her. Is Barb has called me crying crying because there was some catastrophe in her life, like she didn't have money for the rent, or she had something in a relationship wasn't working out or whatever. And this is the result of not doing 20-mile marches, because when you do them, that same thing happens and you don't feel that way. You're a little short this month, so you don't have all the rent or whatever, but it's not a big deal. It's like Amundsen in the tent, where he says, well, we only went 8 miles because, it was, the weather wasn't too good today, so we didn't go the full distance. We'll see. Well, hopefully tomorrow the weather will be better. And Scott is in there saying, we can't move, we can't do anything. And this is what Franny was trying to say, is have that can-do attitude. In the blizzard, march as far as you can. It's like Greg has a can-do attitude. He went for 10 minutes and then rested for 50. But he went for 10 minutes. He and his father and brother didn't...
We didn't feel like it. We said, we've got to keep up and going. Do what we can do.
Yes. You didn't sit down and say, okay, it's too hot, we can't do this.
We had to keep going, or else essentially, it was that or die.
Mm-hmm.
For us. For me, it was, obviously there were other things could have happened, but we had to do this.
And that's what happened to these companies. They died. And the other company that was in the same situation, in the same marketplace, in the same industry, doing the same things, beat the market by 10 times over consistently over some of them a 30-year period by doing 20-mile marches. And so if we get to goal and result, back to goal and result, goals are ways that you are from which results proceed. For example, just to say this to Greg, there is a goal that you should have. You should write this down, and you should make this your goal. And your goal is to be the sayer of doom for the Cure Drive, the prophet of doom, and be continuously figuring out the most catastrophic scenarios you possibly can of everything that could possibly even create a hiccup. And come in and talk to Franny and me and say, this could go wrong, and this could go wrong, and this could go wrong.
Has been updated.
Because if you don't do that and one of those things goes wrong, the end result is that somebody calls Ross up and says there's no more Immunix Web College. And Ross deserves better. Ross, you have earned our support. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, and I really do appreciate.
Yes.
I feel supported. It's wonderful.
We owe it to you to maintain this. You have given your all. And one of the things we realized, most of our money comes from Greg. If anything happened to Greg, there would be no web college. And so one thing Greg is going to do is buy an a life insurance policy on his life, so that if he gets hit by a tractor trailer when he's driving in his subcompact in Chicago,
I'm trying to squeeze around between these trucks, miles an hour,
Knock on the wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. But if that happens, we will be mourning Greg and not saying, Ross, sorry, there's no more web college. You will have a web college. Because we will have some money to figure out what the next thing to do is to go on. And see, and we have to realize that's not good enough. We need to act, like Greg, you need to crunch numbers. You need to run scenarios. You need to come in and say, if my father dies, this is what happens. Precisely, exactly. And
Well,
another
Yeah,
thing,
and that's one thing I told you that I'd like to talk about, you know.
well, we're talking about it right now. And another thing, I'd like to see a packet here at the house, and possibly, you know, one there for you and me, what we do if Franny dies.
Yeah, we should have contingency plans, like, you know,
Okay.
So that, okay, you and Franny get run over by a bus. You know, you're both dead. And one thing that happens is that they take out your wallet and they see to notify me, because I'm your person that they contact. And so I go right to this packet and open it up, and the first thing in it is this table of contents with a list of everything I need in it. Who do I call? How do I make arrangements? Your prepaid funeral, you know, cremation that you bought at a bargain rate from a coupon, so that I can scatter your ashes in the the public
It's
park
gotten
across.
fucking expensive, boy.
So that I can see. Well, you know, there are deals where you can just get yourself cremated. Personally, I'll tell you what, I would be fine with you just cremating me and tossing my ashes next to Pinky's back there in the backyard would be okay. Or, better yet, what you could do with my remains, I don't think they'd allow this, but what you could do is you could grind them in one of those hamburger grinders.
yeah.
You know, and then you
What
could
about just donating it to science?
you could take me out take my remains out in a boat like Dexter does, which would be fun. You know, I could get another last hit of Dexter and feed me to the fish. I'd be chum. And then you could catch like tons of fish that way. You would have enough chum for 3 weeks.
No, I think we'd have a fish farm so we could keep. We would use the pool. We keep a green pool.
There you go. Feed me to the frogs. Okay. So onward. One of the things that I've been doing, because I realize that I have responsibilities. So one of the things that I've been doing is simply I've been I have been fastening my seatbelt when I drive. When I started driving, there were no seatbelts, so I kind of got used to not wearing one. But I have realized that I owe that to you, that it's important for me to, you know, like you'd be really stuck without me. You need me. And so I'm going to be here for you.
Well, that was what was so great about the Toyota, because you couldn't help but put the seatbelt on.
I know, that was actually not too bad. I like that.
The Camry was great that way because you couldn't avoid it. But
That's right.
you have to close the garage door. You have to lock the front door. You have to remember to lock the back doors. You know, the times have changed. You have to turn off the lights. You have to close the bathroom door. You have to learn all these things, because all those things make a difference. Like one day, someone could come in and take your computer and your backups.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. All your work gone.
Yep. So these are, you know, these are things, as you were saying, you wanted to talk about, and we should talk a lot about these things. And it's really like this should be, Greg, this should be your goal. If we talk about vision, goal, result, okay? Your goal should be this prophet of, you're a prophet of doom. You know, like when Microsoft was doing this IPO, and the accountants went in there expecting to see these positive people in a computer startup, you know, who were just all starry-eyed and like, wow, we're doing it, we're doing our IPO. They went in there and this guy started telling them everything that could go wrong for hours. he just went on and on, you know, why they shouldn't do this IPO, you know. They knew everything. They already figured it all out. So, now I'm going to tell you also something that I did that was, okay, one thing, I want to relate this vision, goal, result concept to the hierarchy of interests, which we were studying the other day, because, as you know, okay, we're going to get into the vision area next, and to be a visionary, you have got to be above the operational level in your interests. You cannot be down there and be a visionary. You got to be up there, and then you can be a visionary. So, I did something that would have absolutely wrecked our efforts. I was in the middle of starting, and if you've noticed, like, over the years, you've pointed out to me too, you guys pointed out to me, over the years I've taken us in a lot of wrong directions. And later we looked back and we said, you know, gee, that was no good. And one of the things that has really helped me is to have this CureTeam, this brain trust of us, you, me, you know, and obviously it's getting smaller, but one of the things that I have kept saying to you is that we're it. This depends on us. It does not depend on, you know, new people who come in or people who join the CureTeam and are part of it. And, you know, Ross, you're a fantastic contributor. The reality is of this is that this whole effort depends on basically 3 people, and it always has. Franny, Greg, and me. And then there have been, you know, a lot of other people like you who have come through and helped, and you're still here. And believe it or not, Keely is still here, even though you never see her. But she is not the right person for the CureTeam. So that's something to be considered, is that, you know, somebody may be a great supporter, and like I talked to Keely a couple of days ago, and, you know, I don't really have anything for her to do, but what she does do is she moderates the Cure Drive email group and writes to people on the group and helps them. And she does that pretty much every day, and has been since the group started in 2004. So that's like going on 10 years now. And she sometimes unearths somebody who's good, you know, and something comes of that here and there.
Kitty was on the CureTeam, because I remember in the old audios there was Kitty in the CureTeam.
Yeah, we called that the CureTeam, but it was a different team. I kept the name, but I changed the team. This team does different things than that one did. That one put on the Cure Show, and Kelly was great at that.
Yeah.
You know, that was a good thing for. We don't do Cure shows anymore, so, you know. She's still good at it. I mean, I've done some videos, Cure Show type things with her, and it's been great, you know. Greg, sit back, relax, and take a good breath. And bring a big smile to your face. Get enough oxygen so that a big smile, without you even trying, just comes over your face. You know, a happy... Good, there you go. That looks very nice.
I'm adding Ross. I'm giving Ross an email address, ross@williamune.org.
That's a good idea.
And so I'm I'm going to put your email address in there, Ross, so anything that we just send to ross@waymean.org will be transferred.
Great.
Directed to your account.
That's very nice.
Okay, do I have to do anything?
Well, I have to make sure I have your email address, which I do.
Well, you have to make
Don't worry
it
about
an alias. You have to make it an alias to her email
Yes.
account. not
Okay,
an
let's stop
email.
talking about
Don't
that.
worry about. Okay,
Thanks.
you. Later.
Okay, I'm going to get back to what I was talking about, which is that I was doing something terribly wrong. And the Cure team saved me. It's because I have this team and that we talk, and you have been a huge help in developing these things. I never could have done this without you. This is how I avoided this thing. And I'll tell you what it was. I was, talking to a guy named Paul who had some ideas, and one of them was that we should put up a lot, like we should buy URLs like herpes.com and put up separate websites. Now we have a herpes cure program. It's a good program. It's got a video on it and everything. And what he was saying is you should make that into several separate websites. They could all be pretty much identical.
That's what spammers do.
Yeah, it's this type of spamming. That's right. Now, looking back on this, and we never did it because there was something about it that seemed extremely boring and wrong. Now, if we look at this, during our meetings, I've been saying that you can only do two things to help the Cure team. One of them is talk to somebody who matters, and the other one is develop yourself, practice. Get better at being with people and teaching them things. And by the way, last night, Greg, while I'm thinking of it, you didn't get a chance to say anything or run the outline with any of the people who were on the call. And I sort of felt a little bad about that, and I did the whole thing myself.
With the first person, but then you took over, and that was all right.
Well, here's the thing. I was testing the outline.
Yeah.
And I was also testing myself to see how easy it was to run it. And I found that even though I was looking at over and over and over, I still omitted things. I never told them about the cult, that this is a cult.
Yeah.
Number one. And also when I asked them to contribute, there was something really wrong there, because I need to ask for a contribution that really obviously makes a difference. And also, I need to be willing to hear and accept the person either saying no or saying, well, I can't do that right now because, like, I don't have a Twitter account or something, right?
Yeah.
So I learned some things.
Real feedback rather than, that's a nice idea.
Exactly, yeah. So I learned some things by doing that with them, And that's why I was actually trying to develop the outline, find out if it should be changed, and so on. So when it doesn't seem to need anything anymore, I'll certainly pass it to you. Anyway,
You're talking about asking stuff and following the outline.
I'm sorry.
Never mind.
Thanks. But the thing I was doing, when I was thinking about doing those things, what it really came down to was just putting me and Franny back on the computer, doing some kind of busy work that did not involve talking to anybody who matters. Because basically the people that we're looking for are not out searching the web to find a cure for herpes. If they get herpes, they go to the doctor and they pay the money and get Valtrex or something. They don't want to try to cure it themselves. It doesn't matter that much to them. The people who it affects emotionally are the 22-year-old poor slobs who like are dying. You know, they think, oh, nobody's going to love me because I have herpes and stuff like that.
And boyfriend says, "Oh, I'm not going to be with you anymore." Oh my God. And he gave me
Well, I
herpes in
just
the
want
first
to
place.
point something out to everybody. When we did our courses, one of our students was the dean of Columbia University. Right, Timmy's father, right, Greg?
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, Timmy's father was the dean of Columbia University, and remember when he got like sort of like a stroke during the intensive?
Something, yeah.
Yeah, he like collapsed or something, but anyway, but the point is, that's the level we operated on. We were, you know, teaching the dean of Columbia University. Or CEOs and all these, we had like all these high-powered people were our students.
Yeah, like Francis Fisher, another guy who
And so forth.
Robocop.
Exactly,
yeah.
right. So now the question is, where did we get those people? You know, did we put a sign up on the sidewalk and they came in and answered it? No. Somebody talked to them. Somebody who knew them talked to them. You know, we had movie stars, we had CEOs, we had multi-millionaires. We had whole families who were all multi-millionaires, and so forth and so. I mean, we had a guy and his father in one of our courses, and I can't remember their names anymore. And the guy was sitting there, and he was like clearing himself. They were paired, talking to each other, and the guy is saying, "But Daddy, those were my cattle.
No.
You took my cattle and sold them, you know." And like these guys were millionaires. They were like Texas ranchers. And you know, how did we get those people? They talk to each other. They know each other. And it happens because somebody talked to them. And so what we need to do is not put up websites about, you know, curing your herpes. What we need to do is develop ourselves as people who can get people involved with curing themselves and other people. And see, that's another thing that I forgot last night when I was doing the outline. If you notice, I said absolutely nothing about our mission. And what I'm thinking here, I'm having a couple of thoughts. And one of them is maybe the Monday evening prayer meeting is an entry to the CureTeam or more other things, and that we should invite, you know, that should just be part of inviting new people, whether they have passwords or not, you know, and that we should use it to practice the outline
And see if they're missionaries.
and help people and find out, and most of them won't be, and learn to accept no from people, which is a good thing. We have to learn that. That's very important. So that's you know, that's what I'm thinking about the Monday meeting. It's very interesting to me that I was trying to run the outline, my own outline that I, you know, of course, what's not actually my own outline anyway, because, you know, you guys have input that outline so much at this point that it's like everybody's outline now. But I'm certainly the developer of it.
I am not clear what the point, what your point is. Do we not run the outline in the Monday night meeting? Is the Monday night meeting just to getting to know somebody? What is
No, we never get to know anybody.
Okay.
We don't get to know people, we run the outline. That's the first thing we do with
So
somebody.
you want to run the outline.
The outline is the initial thing we do with people.
Right.
It's the very first, it's like, hello, do you have time to talk? Outline.
And we ought to be asking them, we ought to tell them that we're recording it. So
You should tell them, that's, okay, that's your job from here.
Anybody who we invite.
That's your job in that meeting. This is being recorded. By being here, you are consenting to yourself being on YouTube. God, Franny's gone. Look at that. No sooner did I assign that job to her than she disappeared. Can you believe it? Okay, back to... I'm sure she'll be back in a minute.
She's calling me now, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, to go on to vision, like the vision part of this thing. Number one, it's impossible to find a definition of vision or visionary that works in the dictionary.
Yeah.
Now again, Greg, sit back, relax,
No, getting
breathe
Franny back.
breathe deeply.
Are you back?
Yes, and it's the whole thing.
Okay, I'm just going to go on. So, you heard that it's your job telling people they're being filmed.
My job? I didn't hear that.
You're the resident person who says, this meeting is taped, anything you say will be on YouTube. If you don't want your image on YouTube, turn off your camera, whatever. Okay.
Okay.
You figure out what to say to them. Nobody else is going to think about it, so they're not going to be warned unless you warn them.
Okay. Of course, if I'm not there, perchance, then...
Well, you're responsible for them being warned whether you're there or not.
I think I'm going to...
It's over.
That
It's over. You know, the responsibility has been assigned. We never have to think about it again.
Okay.
So that, what I just did, that's a visionary action. A visionary action is to assign a result to somebody and leave it with them. That's what visionaries do. They assign results to people and leave it with them. Visionaries see how something can be done. They don't just envision something happening, they see the way to get there, and they also see why it should be done, why they should do it, why people should join them and do it. Because one thing that he was...
I thought about it, but I didn't do it.
Well, now you will.
Okay.
You needed, you know, you thought about it, but you didn't do it because you needed it assigned. You couldn't just choose to do it and assign it to yourself for whatever reason.
No, I was afraid I would interrupt your whatever you were doing.
The key words there are, I was afraid. You can't be a visionary if you're afraid. Visionaries are fearless.
Used to say she was afraid you were going to cut her head off if she did certain things.
Yeah, visionaries don't have fear. They're not afraid of getting their head cut off. Somebody was, this author I'm reading was talking about, his name's Jim Collins, he was talking about these people who were these 10x leaders who have led these companies to these enormous successes. And he said one thing that they were asking is, why would anybody work for these guys? Because the guys, they're freaks, they're monomaniacal, they're tyrannical. But you know what else? Is for all that, they pick people who stand up to them, who fight with them, who, you know, who push their own ideas through. And as, you know, what Steve Jobs, one of the things Jobs was saying is that at Apple, they would have like enormous screaming arguments. The managers would just have these enormous arguments. But he said usually the best idea won.
Well, they had good people too.
They had great people, and you know, you're great people, Greg, for example. I'll talk to Greg, and I notice you and I get into screaming arguments. Happens all the time.
Yeah.
You know, one thing Ron said is that he didn't want to be on the CureTeam because, you know, of the tension between us and the arguments we get into. But of course, that's exactly what makes us successful. That we have these arguments.
And when you listen to each other too.
Like I noticed last night, I was talking to Franny, it was late at night, and we weren't exactly arguing, but I noticed that Franny never backs down. That with all this stuff, the nonsense you say about how you're scared and this and that, you never back down. And you always make sure that you make your point. Even today, I said, okay, I don't want to talk about it anymore, so you made your point today about what it is to be positive. And you didn't stop till I got it.
Well, I'm going to probably have to repeat myself again at the point where you don't get it at some other point. Where you
Probably
get
because you are actually a sort of like, I might call you a natural can-do person. And I think I am too, but there are things that I'm not with and you are with, so we sort of complement each other, and you can nail me about it.
Person as long as somebody else.
You guys tell me someone else does it. You're a can't think of somebody else do person.
That is your take on me. I get it. You actually believe that about me.
I mean, you sometimes would follow through, and you have your own things that you like to follow through on, but some things you just whip out. Like, I can't believe it. Like, you whip out after 5 minutes. You know, it's like, well.
Well, I will say that one thing that I have learned, and I think that everyone needs to learn, is when you're not good at something, don't do it. And that, by the way, that's not only another part of being a visionary, but it's the subject of one of the best business books I ever read. And the name of the book is First Break All the Rules. And in this book, it was written by the Gallup organization. You know the Gallup polls?
I have it right here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's an audio. I got an audio book of it. And what he said in there is that these mega churches, for example, that are these overpowering successes, what they do is they take these volunteers. These people have, certain skills and not others. They're not professionals. They're volunteers. And they find, like, one of them is good at arranging flowers. That's what they give him to do. He's not good at answering the phone. He's very shy. He never gets to answer the phone. For the rest of his life, they don't train him. He doesn't learn how to answer the phone. He just arranges flowers. That's what he's good at. Another one's good at, something else. He does that. And when you're good at something, do it. When you're not, don't. Find somebody who can do it. And one of the things that I learned, I never knew this about Andrew Carnegie, was that Carnegie was a visionary. And he was, like, brilliant. And he created this, obviously Bethlehem Steel. He knew nothing about the steel business and was not good at it. And he never tried to do it. He just hired people. He had great people. He knew people. He knew how to find the right person for the job. And in those days, it was
that didn't work too well for George W. Bush.
I don't know if George W. Bush is somebody to compare with Andrew Carnegie. I'm sorry.
Well, he's not. He just wasn't able to pick people.
Anyway, so
maybe the problem is that Carnegie was probably clear what he wanted to accomplish, and George W. Bush was not.
Anyway, I think this is very good for our meeting. That as far as being a visionary, it's a very simple thing, and there's a definition of it in there that I created, and it's simple. It's 3 things, that you can see something that's desirable, and you see why it's desirable, and you can see how to do it. You can see how it can happen. You may not be able to see how you can do it. In fact, it may be something that you can't do. Like, I obviously cannot tip Cure. If I could, I would have already. You can see that I can't because I didn't, Yet, I can clearly see how Cure can tip. And the reason I can see it is because I can look at things and synthesize them. For example, when I first saw, like after many years, it was the first time I had seen it in years, I watched Lawrence of Arabia. This would be back in probably 94 or 5, and Philadelphia. And there's this very first scene where he's in this map room. It's the basement. He's in the basement, okay, looking up at the camels passing. There's a window up near the ceiling that goes out on the street, and he can see the camels passing. And he is going nowhere. He's going to be trapped in this room for the rest of his life, or for the rest of the war anyway. Now that's really not what T.E. Lawrence was like. T.E. Lawrence actually was in Aqaba before the war. He was a homosexual who, was very good at making the right connections and being with the right men. Everything was about men in those days. And I read an article on him in Smithsonian Magazine that showed him in Aqaba, a photograph of him and his mentor, his college mentor. And you could see they were lovers. They were like leaning against each other, in the shade of a ruin on the island in Aqaba Bay. And so it's always easier to go back to a place where you already were. So he probably went there with the intention of, doing something like going back to Aqaba and taking the city. And he figured out how to do it, and then he just connected himself with the right people. And at the beginning of the movie, there's this one guy who gets him the job, and I think that they made it probably a lot more streamlined than it really was, But this guy walks him into the general and tells him to shut up, and talks to the general and insists on this, and off he goes. But the point is that tipping always happens because of a person. And sometimes it's a person contacting a person, and they're all in a position to do something. Like they're all in a position to contact another one. And so it looks like this chain of things, but it's always these single, always these single people. It's the same with support. We've had just certain people who were able to support the Cure Drive, and they did. And some of them we've never even heard of. There are people out there who, just emailed all their 1,000 friends, and we got a bunch of people coming in from that, or they, whatever they did, or they put us in their newsletter or put a link on their website, and we never talked to them, they never talked to us, but that's what they did. So that's the story, It's one person. And so this is an example of a vision, that I can see how it will happen, even though right now I don't necessarily have exactly the person to talk to, but I
can... right, because we didn't tip it either.
We didn't tip it. We can't tip it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I absolutely understand what you're saying.
We can't tip it. No, there's nobody on this call who can tip this. That's clear, right?
Yeah.
Okay, totally clear, okay? We don't have the power. What?
Not for lack of trying.
We didn't try because we couldn't do it.
Right.
Now, what we can do is we can train ourselves. Okay, here's what we can do. We can train ourselves to say things to people that are effective and get them involved and make them aware of what they need to be aware of. That's what the outline is about. We can start with the people we've got, which are people who can't tip it. And then, when we think we're good enough with the outline, we can write to people who can tip it. So our first step is doing what Ross is doing, right, Ross? Which is posting comments on YouTube movies, in Italian, yes?
Yes.
And then you can practice. When somebody calls you, you can practice on the person. Or when you go to class, you can say on the break, come do this with me. And you can practice that way. And you can train yourself to, to find out, oh my God, it's just what I was doing a little while ago. I was saying, oh my God, I messed up and I didn't say these essential things that were in the outline last night. So I learned something about where I am, which is not ready to take my act on the road yet, not ready to talk to somebody who can make a difference, because I'm probably going to screw it up again. I need to run the outline perfectly about 50 times first. Now, if I talk to 2 people a day, let's say that's my 20-mile march. I want to talk to 2 people a day. If I talk to 2 people a day, I could maybe get myself 50 people in 25 days. So I might be ready in 25 days. It's possible. But then in 25 days I might say, gosh, I'm still screwing this up. I need to do it with 100 people. So I need another 25 days. Got the idea, everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
This is vision, okay? Vision is you see how to do it. You see how to make it come about. And then you do that, and it does.
Okay.
So, anybody have anything to add to this?
No. It seems quite complete.
Yeah, to me it does too. Vision, goal, result. You have a vision, then you set goals for yourself. My goal is to talk to 2 people a day and to run the outline perfectly with each person. And then you get a result, which is some of the people sign up for things and pay you something. They give you a donation. And the good donations are results. Maybe someday the result that proceeds from it is cure tips, and everybody in the world knows that they can cure things.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that would be a big result, a very big result. Or maybe it's a goal that we have for the world and all the people in it. I mean, there's probably no point splitting hairs on that, is there?
No.
So, anything else?
Well, anyway, I felt like the meeting last night was really very positive, and everything you did, aside from the fact that you forgot to helpful and everything, but it was great to hear 2 people who just felt really positive about it. And the trick is to get how to get those people to talk to other people about it. even if they're not gonna tip it, they could still spread. I'm sure Joel Osteen, his people must talk to other people. I mean, they don't all talk to the billion people in the stadium personally, but everybody's talking to everybody else.
Sure.
And that was very what you manifested or created for yourself was 2 people who really, were at the point they're at, they're great.
Yeah, they were interesting.